Hello everybody, this is Mr. Rob and welcome back to another episode of the South Carolina Gamecocks Dynasty here on EA Sports College Football 25. As today we're going to go through the conference championship week and find out the fate of every team in the nation. We'll find out who goes to the college football playoff, who will go to which bowl game, including your now 19th ranked South Carolina Gamecocks. If you're excited for this one, make sure you drop a like and you subscribe down below, especially if you want more Dynasty Mode content. Now, our Gamecocks will not be playing this week. We did not make it to the ACC Championship game, but we did end the season strong, including an instant classic in the last episode where we played Clemson and won against our rivals for the first time in the series. The Tigers were the fourth best team in the nation, and we beat them. And because of that, we have now entered the rankings at number 19, finishing the season 8-4. I'm not going to go through the whole season because I will save that for a future episode, but it was a good finish. But we did not make it to the SEC Championship game. We were 5-3 in the conference, and that title will go to Tennessee and Auburn. Now, as far as our ranking, here's where we stand as far as the college football playoff. It doesn't look like we're really going to make the playoff. We are the 19th best team in the nation. And while I feel like that's a little low for us, especially with teams like FIU in front of us, which no offense to them, they play in the Conference USA, and they lost 3 times in the conference. I think we're better than them. Colorado, I think, yes, sure, they can stay above us. West Virginia is the dumbest one, in my opinion, 6-6, and they are 16th ranked. I mean, like, what are we doing here? And then Marshall went 2 losses in the Sun Belt. I mean, we beat a Sun Belt team this year, so, you know, it is what it is. But in terms of, like, who could potentially drop in front of us, it doesn't look like really there's enough, realistically. Marshall could drop, but then Louisiana would probably get in. Same thing with Arizona. If they lose in the Big 12 championship game to TCU, TCU is automatically going to make the playoffs, so I don't see that happening. Penn State with a loss could potentially get knocked out, but, you know, they are playing the number 1 teams. I don't necessarily think that would be fair to them. Tennessee with a loss could get knocked out, but we lost to Tennessee, so I'd put them ahead of us. And it just doesn't look like there's a lot of room for us to find a way into the back end of the playoffs. So unfortunately, we're probably going to be going to a bowl game this year that's not in the college football playoff. We'll have to wait for that, hopefully in the next season. But in terms of who is playing today, here's a look at your conference championship games. We'll go through each one. The Conference USA, it'll be Western Kentucky versus Liberty in Lynchburg, Virginia, as Liberty will be the home team for this game. Not much else is really to be said here. Liberty has had a horrible end to the season. Otherwise, they could potentially challenge for the playoff, but that's not going to happen. The Pac-12 championship back for the second year is going to be Fresno State and Boise State in Las Vegas, Nevada. 2 teams that came over from the Mountain West. Both these teams have no chance to make the playoff, but cool to see the Pac-12 championship game back. Again, I'm so glad that College Football 25 put that in the game. I didn't think they would do that, and especially pick Las Vegas to be the home. That's super cool, so props to them for that. On Saturday, we have the MAC Championship, Ohio and Buffalo playing in Detroit. I don't see a lot of implications on this one in the playoff. This one, there obviously will be the Big 12 Championship, the first of the Power 4 conferences. Number 12, Arizona will play TCU is unranked. Now, the Wildcats will be the heavy favorites in this game, but if the Horned Frogs win, they could cause massive chaos in terms of the playoff. They'll probably knock Arizona out, and TCU could slide into a spot. Now, they are unranked, and there's a couple of smaller conference teams ahead of them who are actually ranked. So TCU could win the Big 12, and there is a world where the Big 12 champion does not make the playoff. But I do feel like if the Horned Frogs beat the number 12 Arizona Wildcats, they will jump enough in the rankings and get a spot ahead of some of these smaller teams. But just something to keep an eye out for. Interesting game there. In the Sun Belt Championship, the only conference with divisions, will be number 15 Marshall going up against number 25 Louisiana. And it's hard not to look at this as a play-in game for the college football playoff. Based off the rankings and the teams in this one, whoever wins this will probably take the group of 5 spot, unless what happens in the next championship game. That's number 4 UAB against Tulsa. Now, the Blazers are in an interesting spot. They have been a staple of the playoff the past couple of years. They've been by far and away the best group of 5 team in the nation for the past couple of seasons. And they have a chance here to make the playoff. There's probably a high chance that they make it regardless if they win or lose. Now, if they win, teams like Marshall and Louisiana and even UNLV to an extent don't want to see that happen because they take the group of 5 representative in the conference, and they take away a conference spot. If UAB loses, although Tulsa is unranked, UAB will have 3 losses. I still think they get in as an at-large. They are the 4 seed, or the 4th ranked team in the country. I don't know if they fall all the way out of the playoff. They've kind of been given the good graces of the committee, in my opinion. I think they've ranked the Blazers high all season long, so I don't see any reason for them to get knocked out, but just something to keep an eye on as well. And it is in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They get to the home field advantage despite both teams being 7-1, so an interesting game. In the SEC, our conference, number 7 Auburn and number 9 Tennessee. Obviously, the winner of this will get a first-round bye, so that's what's at stake in Atlanta. I think the loser is also still in the playoff, but you want that first-round bye. The only conference championship game not on TV, ironically enough, is the Mountain West Championship, as San Jose State will face number 24 UNLV at the Rebels home stadium in Las Vegas. There will be 2 championship games in back-to-back days in Las Vegas, so that's interesting enough. This is a huge game for the Rebels. They have to win this game. They have an outside shot at making the playoff. I don't think they'll get in. Marshall's ranked ahead of them in the Sun Belt Championship, and I think if Louisiana wins, despite them being behind the Rebels, they'll leapfrog them. So I don't think the Rebels get in, but if they want to have an outside shot, they got to win this game. Fortunately, the rest of the country will not see this game. In the ACC, it'll be Miami, the number 2 team in the nation, versus number 23 Clemson. So there's still a path for the Tigers to make the playoff, despite the fact that we beat Clemson in the last episode. And the rest of the country does not want to see that happen because Miami's 100% going to make the playoff, even with a loss. So if Clemson wins, they steal an at-large spot and could potentially steal a first-round bye. So a lot of chaos could happen in the ACC Championship game. And then finally, the game of the week in the Big Ten, number 10 Penn State, number 1 USC in Indianapolis, Indiana. The Trojans, the number 1 seed in the country. A first-round bye on the line. Both these 2 teams will probably make the playoff. Penn State, it's less of a guarantee. They are the 10th best team. But I think if you lose to the Trojans, the number 1 team in your conference championship game, you should still get in. I don't think you should be penalized for losing your conference championship. I think the only way that Penn State doesn't make the playoff with a loss is if a team like Clemson wins, is if a team like TCU wins, and you got to give one of those at-large spots away. So, interesting week of conference championship games. Now that we've previewed them all, let's go ahead and sim them and see what happens in conference championship week. So we sim and we get some unfortunate recruiting news. Rodney Fafafetti will commit to NC State, so we don't get anybody this week. As also around the country, we get to look at the scores, and let's take a look at them. I didn't see that. As we go into Conference Championship Week, Western Kentucky does beat Liberty on Friday for the Conference USA Championship. Boise State wins the Pac-12 as they beat Fresno State. And then we see Buffalo get it done against Ohio in the MAC. Arizona does take care of TCU, so no drama there. The Wildcats punch their ticket to the college football playoff. Louisiana does beat Marshall 27-17. Now, for some reason, they're still only ranked 24 behind Marshall, so that doesn't make sense. So the Raging Cajuns could have got screwed depending on what happens. The Blazers do beat Tulsa, so UAB is in, and they're going to get a first-round bye. They're now the number 2 team in the country. What a look for them. Then we see Tennessee take care of Auburn in the SEC Championship. It looks like Auburn will only fall to 10. So it looks like the committee does not punish you for losing your conference championship game, which I do like to see that. UNLV does lose to San Jose State, so despite the fact it wasn't on national TV, it was a classic, and UNLV just lost their ticket to the college football playoff. But a good win for the Spartans. Clemson will go to the playoff. They beat Miami 31-14, so the Tigers will make it. Unfortunate for us. And then in the game of the week, Penn State does win the Big Ten. They knock off the Trojans 35-29. The Trojans the 3rd best team in the country now. And interesting enough, who's the number 1 team? Out of all these teams that played this week, number 1 is not on the list. So we'll have to see what the new rankings look like. We're now up to number 18. And here's a look at it. Number 1 is Notre Dame. The Fighting Irish are the best team in the nation, which is funny because they play as an independent. So there's no way they can get a first-round bye. Otherwise, it should go to the Irish. So Bedlam this week because of the college football because of the conference championships. You can take a look at all the rankings here. We only move up 1 spot to 18. Somehow Marshall is still ahead of us. I think that's kind of dumb. But, yeah, we jump for FIU despite the fact that both of us didn't play this week. So let's see who makes the college football playoff, Shally. What is the final bracket this week in the college football playoff? And here it is. Number 1 is UAB. The Blazers are the top-ranked team in the nation. That is insane to think about. Tennessee, Penn State, and Arizona are your buys, and Clemson will be the 12 seed. They again end as the other champions. The ACC gets a bottom speed. They'll start off against Notre Dame. We'll see Rutgers versus Miami. Rutgers back in the college football playoff, the first ever national champion. Auburn versus USC, and then Georgia and Pittsburgh. An interesting round of teams. This should be a very interesting bracket to see what happens. Now, it is a bye week, I assume, so we got to sim one more forward and see what happens to us and see what bowl game that we are going to go to. Here's your Heisman Trophy winner. Cam Williams of Notre Dame is your 2027 Heisman Trophy winner. A wide receiver wins it for the first time since Devonta Smith in 2020. 54 catches, 1,173 yards, 16 touchdowns. Honestly, that's not like an overly impressive stat line, so it's interesting that he won the Heisman. But good for Cam Williams. He will probably be one of the top 5 picks in the NFL draft now, considering he is a graduate. As far as us and the Gamecocks go, Wade Mann is your best running back award winner. 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns. He was a workhorse this year as a redshirt freshman. So you love to see that. You love to see the hardware come early. And he is guaranteed to be around next season, which is exciting. And then also in other news, Jason Zandamela gets the best center award. The junior who could come back next season. We got him in the transfer portal a couple of years ago from Florida. He is a junior, but there is a chance he goes to the NFL draft. I would love to have him back next season, in all things considered. And we will be going to the TransPerfect Music City Bowl for the 3rd straight season. We were heading to Tennessee. I was hoping the fact that we were an 18-ranked team now, we'd be going somewhere else in terms of our bowl game, maybe like the Gator Bowl or the Cheez-Its Bowl or something. But we're heading back to Nashville, so hope you like Tennessee, as we'll be facing the UCLA Bruins this year of the Big Ten, which should be exciting. I'm interested to see that. You love to play teams that you don't usually play, and I don't think we'd ever really see the UCLA Bruins. So let's take a look at their roster real quick to see what we're working with. UCLA had a very good season. They've been struggling thus far in this series, but they went 7-5 this year. They have some talent. At quarterback, DeMarcius Davis, the redshirt junior, will head there. He's not overly impressive, so hopefully we can get to him. Halfback seems a little bit up in the air. We go to wide receiver. Grant Gray is the top one, but their offense doesn't look overly that impressive to me. They have a good left tackle in Jensen Somerville, and then their left guard is hurt. And then the rest of the offensive line is not very strong, so I think we could definitely do some work down there. I think our pass rushers will get home. Their front 4 is pretty good. They have a couple of good players, including AJ Fuimamaono. Sorry, I mispronounced that. Linebacker, of course, pretty strong. That's the best player on their team, Roland Antwine, the true junior from Harbor City, California, anchors that. So the linebackers look pretty good. Secondary could use a little help. R.J. Jones is a pretty solid safety, but I think this is definitely a bowl game that we can win. I think we should beat UCLA, and hopefully we can end the season with 9 straight wins, setting us up nicely for next season. But that comes in the next episode. We'll see the TransPerfect Music City Bowl. Thank you guys so much for checking out the episode. If you enjoyed, make sure you drop a like and you subscribe down below, especially if you want more Dynasty Mode content. This is Mr. Rob, and I'll see you in the next one.